So we're back working on Mike's stuff again. This is not the block you saw in the last episode. This is a whole nother engine. Interesting story there. On Friday night, I guess it was, they hurt the motor, broke the main cap right in the middle. So as you remember, the block, the other engine was sitting on the floor there with the crank sitting in it, but needed to come apart and get cleaned. So he calls me up. I'm at Bud's Creek racing juniors with the kids, and he says, "Hey, I hurt that motor." And I said, "Well," it was like 11:30 at night. I said, "Well, I guess I'll get over there and we'll try to get that other one together." And anyhow, my wife was bringing Sam because he was on vacation with her brother, and she was coming to the track anyhow. So I called her up and I said, "How far away are you?" She said 20 minutes. So I went ahead with, rode home with her. By the time I got here, Mike had the block hot tanked. That was all cleaned up, ready to go. Chuck was here, who races with Goo, and so was Richard. So we were able to everybody pitch in on it, and they had the block cleaned by the time I got here. I fit the rings. Chuck put the pistons on the rods. The heads were already put together. I had them done already. I had the old pump all, gone through. So we went ahead and fired it together. 5:30 in the morning. Matt, he drove me back down to Bud's Creek. I jumped into bed and told them they needed to get their shit out of the trailer because I'm not getting up until they get ready to run. And then I heard Mike run it up to Goo in the final, which worked out real good. They went back and put it in and all. Really cool deal. So it was worth all the effort. But that's the whole story about this last weekend. Crazy shit, Anyhow, getting this one apart, we got to get a main cap for it. Once we get that, we're probably going to have to get it line honed. I'm going to look at it first. If it measures good with the dial bore gauge, I might consider running it. Still thinking about that one. Alright, until next time, or in a couple minutes when I think of something else to say, we'll be back. Patrick got the rods and pistons out of it. Trying to determine whether, when it busted the main cap, did it hurt the crank any worse than it already was. So, backing the story up a little bit, before we actually put the other one together, this one had a little bit of a problem. We looked at it earlier in the week. So anyhow, the other motor that was in the car that broke on them on Friday night had a problem earlier from Cecil County. It was taking out the center thrust, and I went over there to check it. I put a dial indicator on it, but with all the rods and pistons in it, it's real hard to get an accurate reading. I came up with about 3. Now that we got it apart, we can actually see what it is, how much it's bent. If you look at the dial indicator there, there's 0. So it's running out just over 2 thou. It swims in 5 thousandths oil clearance. I'm not going to worry about that 2 thousandths. We're going to use this crank and try to get more life out of it. They don't have a big life expectancy in the first place. Right here, I'm going to have to chuck this thing up on the lathe at the shop and try to clean some of this up. It's pretty bad right there. I mean, it's dug into that flange real bad. So I get that cleaned up, I think we'll be good on the crank. We just have to get a couple new main caps and put them on. Now, it also broke the main cap because of a couple things. I think the tune-up was a little bit off. That doesn't fit anymore. And that's number 4. And it's also, there's 2 thou there. It's about 1.5 thou, 2 thou bigger at the bottom. So it got hit on a little bit. There's a pretty bad rod bearing here somewhere right in the middle. So that one is about, that's the one I was looking at earlier. And there's about 38 there, 44 there. So 6 thousandths wider here than it used to be. So that means it was banging on the crank pretty hard, probably lean. So later after we put the other motor together and they ran it and they run it up, we found out that the fuel pump was bad on the thing. So that's probably what caused all this. But the next problem is the engine they were in the final with needs to be looked at real good. So I'm gonna have to go over there probably one day next week, and I think Mike's already got the pan off of it, and just go over everything real good, make sure, because I know they're aware of the fuel pump, so they're going to be getting that taken care of.
Okay. In an ideal situation, how many runs do you get out of these rods?
They're running 25 runs, and then we toss them in the scrap container, Decker Salvage scrap container. Oh my. Yeah, so the cranks are supposed to have a life expectancy of 100 runs or so.
Really? That's it with the cranks?
That's it.
Wow.
I mean, this thing makes 3,500 horsepower. Fuel is what kills it. Fuel destroys it. If this thing could be lean and mean all the way down the track, it would probably run 100 runs. But you got to put fuel through it to get it to leave the start line. It'll never leave on a 10-inch tire without putting a ton of fuel on it. So it's the only way to control these. And, you know, Top Fuel and all is the same way. I mean, they control it all with fuel, and fuel destroys it.
Absolutely. Control combustion.
So the next step is we'll get the crank out, we'll get the caps coming for it, and see if we can make it work without a bunch of headaches.